Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, former installation contractor and boutique store owner. Joining me this week is Tony Pieroni of the Flooring Dealer Sales Accelerator, and we're going to be talking about lead management. I know that when I was contracting full-time, I was absolutely horrendous at it. I was great at answering the phone. I was great at getting out to go do my consultations. I was great at sending out my quotes. But if you didn't reply to me within, I think I would reach out with like one or two phone calls, reach out with one or two emails saying like, hey, what's going on? Let's do something. And after that, you were out of my lead flow. I'd delete you out of my inbox and away you went. And I didn't want to do anything else with you anymore. There was no nurturing. There was no follow-up 8, 9, 10 times, nothing. If you didn't want to go right now and you couldn't be put on my schedule when I had openings, whether I was 8 weeks out, 10 weeks out, whatever it was at the time, and say like, yes, I'm committed, out you went. And I'll be honest, that's a horrible way to run a business. I don't know how many people I probably could have converted had I had something in place that allowed me to follow up with them for a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, because I did actually have people reach out 12 months later saying, hey, we're ready to go. And so how many people forgot about me, went with a different business because they didn't know? Tony is here. This is what he specializes in. He's got years of experience in field working for Mohawk, actually getting dealers on board with him as a Mohawk rep. And so a lot of the system that he's built now with his company is based on real world experience of how do I keep people interested? How do I stay in front of them? How do I continue to educate them on the benefits of why we're great long term so that I can get them in? And we'll talk about how to, convert quickly as well, because there's a lot of hints that he has as to how you deal with clients and get them to say, yes, I need you out here now, and to get them to stop calling, emailing, texting other companies, which is very, very important, because I know if you don't answer the phone, I'm calling until somebody does. So first big tip, what is it, Tony?
First big tip is call your leads immediately, seconds to minute.
There you go. Just do it. All right. So that's enough out of me. We got a quick word here from tiletools.com, and then I'm going to have Tony introduce himself, and we're going to jump into this. So attention flooring professionals, elevate your craftsmanship with the finest tools and supplies from tiletools.com. From spacers to saws, we have everything you need for flawless tile installations. Plus, we offer top-notch customer service and fast shipping. As a special offer for Floor Academy listeners, use the code FA10 to receive 10% off your next order at checkout. Don't settle for less. Visit tiletools.com today and experience the difference in quality and service that professionals trust. Hop on over there, guys. Tile Tools is a great company, and they're not lying about fast shipping. They will get stuff turned around very quickly. You'll generally get it faster than the estimate in my experiences. It'll say it's coming Thursday. It shows up on Wednesday. So always been very, very happy with them. And they've supported the show, and I know they've supported others in the industry. So let's give to those companies that give to the industry and help support us. All right, Tony, welcome to the show. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?
Oh, thanks for having me. Who am I? My name is Tony. I have about 17 years in the industry. Today I run my own company, and we do a lot of like lead generation. We do managing leads, but we really primarily focusing and scaling on the lead management process and identifying, hey, what's gone wrong in the industry? Why are people having troubles with this? What's the current process and what needs to happen? And then we create a lot of solutions to help people bridge that gap. Essentially, it's taking a smaller company, it could be 500,000 to a few million, and getting them to start operating like a $10 million company thinks about lead flow and opportunity flow and conversion rates. And that helps.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's where we all need to be. It's always funny to me when small business owners are like, oh, I'm just a small business. Well, stop thinking about yourself that way. Like if
Yeah.
if you want to be a big business, go operate like a big business. And even if you don't want to be a big business, go operate like a big business because your life will be easier. There's a reason that they're able to do the things that they do and have the free time and the scalability and whatnot. It's go steal from those that are ahead of you, and it'll make your life easier where you're at.
Yeah,
That's my opinion.
it's kind of like the old advice, especially working in a corporate environment, right? Where you're like, hey, dress for the position you want,
Hmm.
right? For the business owner, it's like, hey, start acting, start thinking about the business that you want to be. Even though you can't maybe get there now or it's not available today, but those thoughts and those actions, you start moving the way you start thinking. I believe that.
For sure. I was when I was in the corporate world, I was told to always know the job above you because you didn't
Hmm.
know when the opportunity was gonna. If you couldn't do your boss's job, you were never gonna get the promotion. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people go looking for promotions or raises and they haven't developed the skill set yet. And so go
yeah,
find out what the skill set you need is, go develop it, and then that opportunity is gonna find a way to present itself.
that's
So
phenomenal. Yeah.
we are talking about lead flow, and the number one thing here that we already brought up is answer your phone, get back to people as quickly as possible. And I have it happen all the time. You go looking for somebody, you're calling them, and I'm going to keep calling until I get an answer from somebody, right? I want a
Mhm.
response. I want to talk to a human. I don't care if it's an answering service, but I want to
Mhm.
talk to a human, be acknowledged, and know that the problem I have is starting to get fixed, as opposed to leave a bunch of messages and I don't even want to leave a message. I won't do it. I
Mhm.
hang up and I'll call the next number on my list, because I want to feel like I've got somewhere instead of stuck in limbo with this idea that I have that I want to bring to fruition. So, what do you have? If we're starting there, what can guys and gals in the field do to better answer?
Well, let's start with this. Let's start with like I'm going to paint the scenario that I think that most of the listeners, most companies are at. If you can relate to this situation, then I think this is the strongest place for us to start because I believe that, being good at managing lead flow comes down to organization first. If you're not
Mm-hmm.
organized, you're gonna have a really hard time saying who did I call, who did I didn't call, and who did I not call. And like that's understanding is crucial, right? So I find that most people out there, and you can relate, some people or not, is that hey, I'm receiving leads, internet leads, whether they're from Google, whether they're from social media, whether they're from one of the shared lead sources, whether they're from a form fill, even a chatbot on the website. Those are all forms of leads.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of start these conversations as what is a lead, right? Because people have different definitions of what lead is. A lead is not a customer with a checkbook in their hand. A lead is not a closed deal. A lead is not a referral, right? A lead is an opportunity for you to follow up for business purposes, right? So within leads itself, you have high intent leads and you have low intent leads. But in order to get the most out of your lead flow, you have to treat every lead like it's the most important thing in the world. And that's how you schedule high percentages of qualified booked appointments and stuff like that is like essentially by plugging all the holes in the boat. So most of the people that I find that we talk to out there are getting their leads through their inbox, through these sources,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're coming into the inbox and an owner is doing, or whoever's receiving those leads is doing a couple different things. One, they're either managing that lead flow by themselves. Two, they're handing it off to a salesperson or a secretary, right? And in my humble opinion, I believe that those are all like incorrect decisions. And so initially, we're starting off in a deficit because we're not organizing that. I
Okay.
believe that you need to have some sort of like CRM, some sort of system
Mm.
that collects those leads and allows you to move them through a pipeline of what stage they're in, right? You can visually see everything. There's a bunch of tools out there. You can do Salesforce. I'm not sure if, like companies like Jobbert. I don't mean to plug anybody, but I know there's a lot of companies out there that do like CRMs, inexpensive to the higher end Salesforce type stuff. But those stuff you have to have a system first, right? So lead comes in. As soon as I see a lead come in, I'm not waiting on my inbox, right? I'm not waiting to like, how often are you guys checking your email? Like if
Yeah.
you work longer than seconds to minutes to call that lead, you're like longer than 5 minutes, they say you're 400% less likely to convert that into an appointment if you wait 5 minutes. Who's checking their
Wow.
inbox every 5 minutes? Not
Well,
me.
no, I'm definitely not. Um, I didn't have a CRM, and if I did it again, I for sure would find a CRM. I would probably find something industry specific that was built around how flooring works. But you're right. Between, the everything for me was based on my phone dinging at me, right? It was either going to ring because a phone call was coming in, it was going to ding with a Facebook message, or it was going to ding with an email,
Hmm.
or a text message. And so there was, not only was there 4 different places to keep track of leads, but then I had to have it set to actually actively ding. And then I had to find my space of, well, I'm busy installing.
Hmm.
Can I actually stop right now and take the 5 seconds to look at my phone and see what it is?
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
determine, do I want to call this person or not? And so it was like, it's constantly an interruption. And I think
Oh,
that's the advantage of having somebody else do it. But I get it. We're not all in a position to do that. So if it's only a 5 second distraction, can you do it as you're walking to the saw? Right? Like,
yeah.
can you find a way to manage this stuff actively while you're doing it? And my lifesaver was, I would leave things unread. That way I remembered to follow up with you. Like, I would try and read like the 2 sentences that come up on the preview. And if it looked important, then I would probably get in there and respond right away. Otherwise, you got set back to like unread, or I would reply and tell them like, hey, just send me a message back so I remember to follow up with you later. And I don't think that's a horrible request. Like, hey, like, let me have that unread thing, and I will guarantee you that I can follow up later. Like, people are
Hmm.
willing to do that to help you be successful with them.
Hmm.
But that was like my little cheat. So if you're the person that has like 800 emails, or sorry, like 800 voicemails and 20,000 emails unread in your inbox, I don't know that this system's going to work for you. I'm the guy that has to keep everything at 0. And
Yeah.
so it worked. Like, having those little notifications annoyed the crap out of me, and
Yeah.
it made me get through it and follow up with everybody and get it done. But that was like my little trick for like how I did it without having a CRM and everything in one place. Was it stayed unread until I was ready to handle it, but I tried to follow up with people as quickly as possible. And I would just pick my moments of like, okay, I have to go do this task that takes a minute to happen. Like, I can answer some stuff right now.
Hmm. And I started on a spreadsheet. Like my first
Okay.
leads that I got, I started on a spreadsheet and I started converting them on a spreadsheet. Like everything would go over there. And I even manually added them to the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know today, we were missing that speed to lead, which is one of the most crucial elements, right? But like being organized, like I said, like you said, the owners, the salespeople, the one guy in the field, whatever it is, solopreneurs, is you have competing interests. And competing interest is one of the biggest thing that kills lead flow. So it's like you have to make sure, one, I think in my first opinion is one, you're organized, right? And two is like, hey, I gotta make sure that if I have 50 leads coming in a day and I'm still, I'm installing, like that's not gonna be it's not gonna be a very profitable. Like there's gonna be a lot of
Hmm.
waste in the marketing budget there. So one is make sure that your lead flow matches what you can actually handle if you're gonna be doing it by yourself, right? Because you're way more likely to convert 3 leads a day if your process is dialed than you are getting 20 leads a day and you're not managing that lead flow properly.
Hmm.
So more is not always better. In this case, I believe that more leads to more waste.
I look, I couldn't agree more. I was able to find a way to generate enough leads to keep myself busy. There was probably more if I would have followed up a little bit better that I could have gotten into having a second crew maybe.
Mhm.
But had I started paying for actual advertising in some form, or marketing in some form, I think it would have generated way too many, and I would have been throwing that money away.
Mhm.
I wasn't set up to take it yet. I think you're 100% right. There's a lot of companies that they'll go throw money at a marketing company and be like, put me on YouTube, put me on Google, put me on Instagram, like, let's go, like, generate all this stuff. and then they have no way to manage it. And then they're like, you suck. You don't get me anything. I'm firing you. Well, is it their fault or is it your fault? And I think it's with the amount of people that are marketing themselves in online groups of like, hey, can you handle, I'm looking for somebody that can handle 20 leads per month or 10 leads per day or whatever obnoxious offer they have these days. There are a lot of bullshit companies out there. Don't get me wrong. There are. But there's also a lot of really poorly organized contracting businesses that are not ready to take on the leads that they're paying for. And so it's a matter of, can you hold them accountable, but can you be accountable to yourself on how you manage these?
And that's why I start with the definition, right? Because I believe that, hey, if you're if you're in the flooring business, no matter what level you're on, you don't need leads to grow your business. I'm sure they need to come from somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the metric to focus on, in my opinion, is those qualified booked appointments. Because if you can meet with more of the right people, you can grow your business.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you see those marketing messages, this is always a conversation I have with a lot of people. When you see those marketing messages, like, I'm looking for somebody to handle 20 leads a month, it's like, or a day, it's like most of our clients, most of people in this industry are thinking leads, are thinking like appointments, or that's what they want, right? But they're not. Like that's a waste without a process to convert them to those, convert and qualify to a qualified booked appointment. And I think the first thing is just to be organized. Like, my leads are going to come in here. I'm in the camp of, I have no notifications on my phone, right? Like, I don't want any. I don't want to be distracted. When I'm focused and I'm doing something, I want to be in that moment, in that job, in that task, and what I'm doing. And when I take time out, like, I have 10 minutes, I'm going to do email. I'm going to work on email. Like, I'm in that camp. So it's like those notifications. So like, if you get the right tool, like the right CRM, they all do this. You can find anything. It's just, hey, what's within a budget and what's not, is that as soon as that lead hits, there's so many automation tools. You're like, hey, my name's Kyle. I just received your information. Thank you very much for reaching out. I'm currently on the job right now. I'll give you a call in 15 minutes or 20 minutes or as soon as my next availability, but just want to let you know that I see it and I'm getting there. So like, that goes a long ways.
Yes.
And then, there's even AI, like, it depends. Like, this is all budget dependent. Like, a lot of people are using all these AI tools and, to schedule appointments, and some of that stuff works and some of it doesn't. I'm in kind of split on that. We don't use any of it anymore personally, but
okay.
I believe human touch. I believe that the human touch is the most important thing.
I totally agree. I think I wore Bluetooth headphones all day, right? I wanted to be able to listen to my books, my podcast, my like whatever music I was doing, whatever it was, right? And plus they were hearing protection, so those were in all day.
Yeah.
But if the phone rang, it's connecting. I can answer real quick. I can stop what I'm doing. Hey, thanks for calling Illustrious Hardwoods. This is Kyle. How can I help you? Oh, hey, we wanted to get a lead. Awesome. We wanted to get we want to set up a quote. Cool. I'm happy to help you. I'm currently on a project. I should be wrapping up around like 4:00 today. Can I give you a call between 4 and 5? Oh, yeah, that would work great. Awesome. Can you please text me your name, your number, and a little bit about your project? And then I will call you back at that time. Right. Now they're sending me a new notification that's going to bother the crap out of me all day, but I know it's there and I have to follow up. I've stopped them from calling other people because I answered the phone when they called immediately, and it didn't take that long. Right. I shut them down from wanting to get into the half an hour long conversation about their project. I said, no. I'm on a project. This client's bought my time. I'm going to respect them. I'll get to you when it's my, quote unquote free time, because I learned very quickly that I would take phone calls in the middle of the day and they would turn into 30 or 45-minute phone calls.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm looking at my watch saying, oops, I now have to stay here later, but my kid has to be somewhere afterwards. I don't have the time to make this up. So I'm going to have to make it up tomorrow when he doesn't have an activity. And my 8-hour day turns into a 10-hour day so I can get back on track, because I've scheduled this for 5 8-hour days, not, 5-6 hour days because I'm taking 2 hours of phone calls every day. So I think that's the big trick that I learned was like, people just want an answer, right? Just pick up and respond to them. It's okay to tell them like, hey, we'll talk later.
Mhm.
And even with the AI thing, like that's exactly what you're kind of doing. If that's the route you want to go, the AI can be like, hey, yeah, awesome. Glad you're interested. Book a time for a phone call. We'll talk to you then, right? But at least like they feel acknowledged in the process. And I think that's the key you're getting at is like, let's acknowledge their presence and their want, and then get them set up to be able to discuss it later.
Yeah, if you can't get back to them, AI is a better solution because at least you're getting back, right? They appreciate. I think that clients or homeowners will appreciate the fact that like there's some level of response and a company that's providing some sort of, even
Mm-hmm.
if it's not a response. But obviously, I think the human response is the gold standard, right? But
Yep.
any sort of automations, any sort of AI responses is a good filler until you can get there. And you also got to realize too, there's a lot of owners, I believe, that want to hand this task off. Like, and they're not wrong for wanting to hand this job off to somebody internally. But you got to realize as an owner, just because you delegate it to a salesperson, a lot of internet leads are a pain in the butt. They're not easy to work. There's a lot of like, rejection as far as even though they're providing information and
Mm-hmm.
want asking for a phone call, it's like it's low priority to a salesperson or a receptionist because there's not a lot of reward to doing it, right? So it's not nearly as important to those people as it is to an owner because new opportunities are the lifeblood of your business, right? So the competing interest is the exact same with a receptionist, with a salesperson, with somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
except for there's a lower priority for the lead. So a lot of times the action is right by saying, "Hey, I need to delegate this task," but the result doesn't improve; it actually gets worse. And not to mention the right type of appointment setter, I believe, in my opinion, an owner is a good appointment setter. They understand their business and their customers as long as they can communicate. But the skills of a great appointment setter and owner are not always shared between salespeople or receptionists, right? Those
Yeah.
people, I think, are really geared towards meeting with clients. The strengths come up on the doormat or in the showroom, right? And that's where their strengths are. That's where they want to work, pull out samples, proposals, like take care of their client. And that it doesn't really always translate to appointment setting really well, too. So there's you got to be careful of where you put those because you might find more waste in that marketing cost.
Great points. It's you got to hire for the position that you actually want, right? And I get it. Small businesses, we have to find people that fit many roles because you're not, as we know as entrepreneurs, like you're not just the installer anymore. You're the owner, you're the sales guy, you're the marketer, you're the scheduler, you're the everything, right? And then you hire somebody else and they become however many positions it is. And so if you want to delegate that responsibility out, make sure you know that going forward of like, okay, what can you take on? What can I take on? And maybe you keep the appointment setting, but you
Mhm.
give them some other tasks off of that, right? You do a little less installing, they do more. They will do all of the sales, but you'll handle all of the initial phone calls, right? You'll get them set up to be able to go, but now you're not out in the field as much running around, driving around. So you have the time to answer the phone calls. Like, how do you have to find a way to make it work. And I think that's a great point, right? You can, if you want somebody just to greet people when they come into the showroom and you want a receptionist and they're going to manage, basic incoming phone calls, can they actually handle getting people to set up an appointment, or are they driving them away? Because if you were doing it prior and now all of a sudden you're not getting any appointments, where'd the system break down? Like what's that receptionist doing differently than you were, right? Is it an education problem or is it a skill set problem?
I have a good friend of mine in Northern California, Petaluma. He owns a few businesses, a few brick and mortar flooring stores, and a shop at home company.
Okay.
And for one of his businesses, great guy, like I said, really close friend of mine, long time, and he calls his own shared leads, right? Because he knows like if he hands those off, he understands that why they're so important, right? To get to so fast. And like he just can't get the same result with his salespeople, and he has a great staff. Like everybody's fantastic, right? But he's just like, hey, this is the one thing I can't hand off because as soon as it comes in, hold on a second, I got to call this lead. That's the mentality, right? Of managing leads that you have to have. Like even my team does that. I'll be on appointment with them, on a call with them. They're like, I got to take this. I'm like, yeah, you do, because I mean those cost money, and the only way you're going to convert those into appointments, qualified appointments, is by getting to them fast and just providing good service and finding out what their needs are and qualifying them.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's that's the biggest hang up, I think, for a lot of small businesses is just being able to be there and answer the phone, right? And now that I think we've kind of killed that to death. And it's not a bad thing. I think that's the most important part here is if you're not answering the phone, if you're not responding, if you're not getting that initial contact quickly, you're losing more opportunities than you realize.
20 or 30 minutes is too late. An hour is too late. Tomorrow it's gone.
Okay. So we've answered. What are we doing now? Like, what's the next key in being able to build this process out so it's efficient all the way through, right? We've got our CRM. Hopefully everything's coming into that. We've got one centralized location to handle everything. We're answering the calls, the emails, the texts when they come in immediately. What are we doing next?
Well, I'm happy to just go right down the SOP, right? I'm going to share like playbook. Like I have no problem. I'm very vocal about this, about giving it to anybody that wants to do it or invent their own process. It's like, do it. Absolutely. By building a good system. We talked about calling back, right? Like I believe in double dials and triple dials, right? Because companies or local people don't spam callers won't double or triple dial, right? So you say, hey, as soon as that lead comes in, I'm going to double that. If you don't answer, right, I'm just going to call right back. And you'll be surprised on how many homeowners will answer on the second phone call back to back. If they don't answer on the second phone call, then I leave a message, right? And my message is service, completely around service, right? It's about my team is like trained, and I would say it's around service. It's not about sales, right? It's like find out what they're looking for, find out what their needs are, ask them probing questions, make sure they own their house. They're not a renter or they're looking for a repair unless you're into that kind of stuff. It's about service. And that message is that. It's like, hey, I'm the new client manager or I'm the owner of this company and I saw that you were interested. We just want to find out more about your project and see if we can help you, bring your dreams to reality or whatever you want to say, whatever your script says. And then what I want to do is I want to repeat that process over 3 days, right? I'm already calling within seconds to minutes. If I'm not getting there the next day, I'm going to call about the time they entered the lead was entered last time. Little strategy tips, right? If that doesn't work, I'm gonna look for a different time of day before or after work hours or closer to those, right? And I'm gonna try that for 3 days. For 3 days, I'm gonna call that person, that lead back at least once, double dial, leave a message, let them know you're trying to get in touch with them. And and I'm gonna do that. And every single time I call, I'm gonna give them a text message. Just trying to reach you. I know you're trying to get a hold of us. And I'm always reminding them that you reached out to us and we're just trying to provide you service, right? Gently, right? After that, we plug in automations. I would recommend that if you are going to use a CRM, that you do like 7 days automation. Like I said, it's not selling, it's about service. It's like for the next 7 days, I'm going to drop a very nice text message, and it's going to have different topics over the next 7 days just to try to keep them in your world, right? And that's the automated part. But one of the importance about being organized and having a good CRM system is that we're capturing all this information. So that means when you're having your November sale, or your December sale, or your Black Friday sale, I have all these people, right? Mm-hmm. And they're answering questions, like all that stuff is being recorded. So I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to just do a nice gentle reminder to my entire group of leads that's ever come in. And very few people have this. It's like, I can drop a message to, several thousand people right now if I really wanted to, saying, hey, I got a blowout of, 20 mil LVT at $1.99, right? It's like, if you're interested, this is going to be a one-time sale. Please come in and see us or reach out. Like that type of stuff is you're leveraging the lead cost on all the people that you didn't close to maybe try to bring them back in, because the sales cycle that we're finding for people on the flooring can be really similar to real estate. They may be reaching out now because they're interested or inspired, but they may not be ready for 3 or 4 months. So
Yes.
by keeping them in your web, throughout the year, respectfully, right? Now, I'm not into this, hey, twice a day you're going to get an email thing from me. Not for a local business
Yeah.
and serving a local community. These national companies that, like, whatever, Best Buy or whatever, they're going to drop email. That's fine. It's a different strategy. We're dealing with local people, and that reputation, is very, very important. So you got to be very respectful in how you
Hmm.
reach out.
No, I think those are great tips, right? If you're following up the first couple of days in person, you're calling twice because that's not what robocallers do. You're leaving a message, you're leaving a text message as well saying like, "Hey, right, just reaching out to you again and following up to, help you solve whatever it is they inquired about." Is great advice, right? You're going and reiterating that you're solving the problem. You're trying to call them at the time they called you, which probably means they're free at that time, or you're like you said, you're looking at the different business hours, which is, before or after to try and hit them. And that's the stuff that I don't think a lot of owner operators are doing, because we get caught up. And so if you don't answer when I call you and I have time, because we're selfish, right? We want to, it's all about me and my business and fitting my what works for me. Well, that's great, but then everyone sits there and says, "Oh, I was so busy and now I'm not busy anymore." And
Mhm.
I nobody ever books with me, and my leads are all garbage. Well, are they? Or are you just not doing it right? Right. So I think that those are great tips to make sure that you're finding a way to try and stay in front of people. Give it multiple days to try and reconnect with them. People get busy. You do too, right? We drop the ball on things.
Yeah.
We've got things come up, right? Something happen. I've had people that reach out, and then that same day there's like a death in the family, and they'll
Mhm.
reach out like 2 weeks later and be like, "Sorry, we're totally interested. We just had this thing happen." Shit happens, right? So who knows? And then being able to have that CRM system, like you said, and convert it to being automated after a couple of days, and then it's reaching out once a week or whatever you set that up to be, but getting them great information about your company, about the services you provide, how you can help them, right? If you're into sales, having that sale, be notified. And then that last bit about just having that email list in general. I know that anybody that listens to the show is probably going to the bigger events. You've probably been to some kind of local training from a distributor where they had a vendor partner come in, or you've been to TICE or Coverings or the NWFA Expo. You've been to things like that. All of those companies now, when you wander around, you go to a booth, they want to scan your badge
Mhm.
because it's got your email info. And then after the show, you start getting inundated with, "Hey, come look at our stuff. Come look at our wares. Here's what we have to offer. Here's what we can do for you." And it's absolutely obnoxious. But you got put
Mhm.
on their email list, so you can take the time to unsubscribe, or you're going to keep getting them.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you find a way to do that with all of the potential leads you've ever gotten, and they can decide if they want to unsubscribe or not? But you always have a way to reach them. You can do a sale. You can do an announcement of you know, that you're opening up a new branch. You can advertise that, if you're starting to get slow, "Hey, I have these spots open around this holiday. They just became available." Don't tell them you're slow, right? "Hey, we had a couple of cancellations last minute. Family stuff came up with some clients. We've got a couple of openings. If you're looking to get something done in a pinch, we've got, we'd be happy to talk with you right now." You never know what's going to draw somebody in, but if you don't have the ability to reach them, then how much stuff are you losing?
Yeah, there's a lot of waste by not capturing that information and keeping, even if you do nothing with it, right? Until you
Mm-hmm.
get like, I need to be able to do, I need to do something with it. And you're talking about like these shows, like there's a lot of really great, and I know not everybody out there is super techy, right? And I get that, but there's some really great solutions. When I was a rep for Mohawk, I used to run because I used to work with end users, so it was a lot of client facing. like facilities directors and that type of roles. And so when I would go to shows and stuff, I had an automated system, right? Where
Hmm.
I could be, I think I used Evernote. I don't know if they do this today. So, but I would scan the business card. It would put it into my phone. It would connect with them on LinkedIn and it would send them an email saying, hey, it was great meeting you, right? Just from one scan,
Okay.
right? And then I can capture information. I mean, that's another way to manage leads, right? Now, I'm sure there's different ways you could automate it to your CRM if you want to use a CRM and stuff like that. But like every opportunity is your list. And a lot of people in the marketing world would say that, hey, data is just as, it's more valuable than gold these days.
Hmm.
And the bigger list that you have, the more you can leverage in the future. Like if you want to do a newsletter, if you wanted to grow into something, right? It's like having and capturing all that stuff and being able to leverage later is, I know a lot of people outside the industry that can generate a lot of revenue off their list. And I know flooring dealers can do it too, because there's not a lot of focus in our industry. So one
Yeah.
is maintain that information, keep that information, and people generate a lot of money just having big lists, right? And then you can get into like using it if like, using it for like a window company you want to partner with for commissions, like once it gets big enough. But number one is you have to be organized and you have to be able to keep everything in one place. Your business will grow. If it's slow, it could be one text message saying a special or a deal, and then you're not slow anymore.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that it's often ignored in our business, especially just small businesses in general. We don't capture enough data, and we're constantly, again, if you're not ready for me now, I'm not interested. I have to close now. I'm small. Everything has to keep rolling. And
Yeah,
so it's a horrible way to operate.
and think about the tactic of following up with people, right? There's a lot of psychology around this too, but think about following up. Like, I feel like if I say to somebody, if I'm following up with a lead or something and saying, hey, I'm following up with you, that's a very selfish action. I try to remove those words from my vocabulary the
Mm,
best I possibly can because following up with you means like, okay, great, you're following up. What do you want? Right? It's like, it's about me, right? Because I'm actually interested in gaining your business time, right? So I'm following up with you. But try to think about a follow up as a give. Like, hey, I got something. I thought you might be interested in this, whether it's information based, product based, if you know kind of what they're after. Like maybe I saw that you're interested in a house full of carpet. I actually have something that I thought you might be interested in. We don't have a lot left, but maybe it's a deal. I don't know, but have something of value for them, a give is a much better way to get a phone call back. And it's got to be sincere.
hmm hmm
Absolutely got to be sincere. Nothing can be made up. But find sincere ways to follow up with gives and give. Remember, give is information too. Like, oh, I got some really good information about doing a project you might want to consider if you're looking at doing whatever it is, right?
Yeah. No,
More
I
likely.
I love that. I'm big on like word connotation, and that you're pointing out something that I've never really considered. Right? I'm following up with you. I'm doing like it's about me at that point instead of
Yeah.
what they can get out of it. So that's great
Nobody in my
advice there.
team's allowed to use the words follow up. It's pretty funny.
I no, it makes sense. We can dig into that a little bit more, or we'll pick something else up. I do need to interrupt us for 1 second. We got
Oh
a
yeah.
quick word from Utzon. Utzon has your floor installation needs covered with our extensive range of high quality products, whether it's our moisture mitigation system for concrete slabs, subfloor prep products, tile and stone installation systems, or our tooling. We have the solutions for your project. We also provide expert guidance to help you choose the right solution, as well as technical support for your job site. Learn more by visiting our website, social media, through our app, or contacting your local rep. If you don't know how to get a hold of your local Utzon rep, download the app. They make it super easy. You can actually search for them. Their phone number comes right up. And they've got, at least locally for me, they've got great response. So their products are amazing. I promise you, I use them myself, firsthand experience. I've never been disappointed with an Utzon product. So give them a shout, guys. Go check them out, see what they can do for you. And at the very least, if you need to know how much self-level to pour, the app does the calculation for you. So you don't have to think too hard. And I love not having to think. That's like my favorite thing. I just want to be a brainless dummy all the time if I could find a way to do it. So Tony, we're talking the connotation here, and we can take out I'm following up with you, and it's more of we want to make sure that we're offering within our lead flow that what can we give them, right? Like if it's always about offering value instead of you gaining something, it's a much more appealing, you're more appealing to work with, because then you're solving issues as opposed to taking. And I think a lot of times when we present offers, it's all about me.
It depends on who you are too. Like you got to be sincere to who you are. Like, and we know different people in our industry. Like we can say that. Let's look at a couple solopreneur personalities,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have the really busy contractor that's in high demand, right? He doesn't necessarily probably need to. People can get and read that. Like if that's part of his personality. Like I'm, I have one spot this week. I can come and see you. Like that might be what works for him, right? Is the whole demand. You got somebody that's like really looking to generate lead flow and convert the maximum amount. Maybe they're getting going. Maybe they don't have a full calendar, right? It's like the value add will work really good for them. It's just like I find that like you got to do with what fits your personality. And this is not sincere to your personality. I would, could maybe find something else. And that to me is the most important thing that you can possibly do is kind of be true to yourself. And I want to be able to provide really great service. And that's kind of why I lead with those things first, because it fits my personality.
Mm-hmm. No, that's you can tell when someone's being fake, and then you definitely don't want to do business with them. You can usually get that. You just get a bad feeling about it, that like this isn't going to work. It's not a good fit. So good advice. We're following up. We're getting into now. It's past initial follow up. What else do we need to do if we're getting into that automated end of our lead management? If they're not responding, and then we'll switch and say, okay, hey, we've made contact. What do we need to do now?
So I would say, hey, I would say focus 7 days. First 7 days are so important. First few seconds to few minutes, most crucial, right? Then we're going to say, hey, 3 to 4 days out, you're going to get one phone call a day, one text message, or 2 phone calls in the message, and a text message, personal message, right? I go out 7 days from there with automations, right? Because if you haven't really gotten them in 3 or 4 days, the likelihood is falling. So after 7 days, I might drop off to once a month,
Okay.
right? Then offer specials and stuff like that. If you're the type of person that is all ready for a newsletter, like you already got regular lead flow. Most people are providing an email, a phone number, and a name when they're providing you a lead, right? Or when they're getting receiving a lead. So you have an automated, like your newsletter, anything to stay in contact with your customer base, right? Regular posts on social media. Now they're on your newsletter, and your newsletter could be nothing more than, hey, look at the cool stuff that we did this month. Before and after. People get into that, right? That might be just to keep them in your court.
It doesn't even have to be that. Honestly, if you come up with a newsletter and you're just being helpful to homeowners in general, and you're like, give them a recipe, give them a DIY tip on electrical, like forget the flooring stuff, right? Get your name, I think, in front of them is more important than anything else. And so don't necessarily make it about don't make it about what you're doing. Make it add value to their lives. So it's not that you're wrong and that's not great advice, but I think there's a way, like people are going to get, oh, I don't have enough content. I don't get enough projects finished. Like, how do I fill all this space? Right. Like if you were to make a 2-page newsletter, people get overwhelmed with like how to fill the space. Don't overthink it, folks. It's easy, right? Like Google like newsletter template, and then you can Google like, what are homeowners interested in right now, and Google will probably give you a bunch of answers of like, it's fall time, they want to know this kind of info. Cool. It'll build itself in no time, right? Like don't overthink it and get hung up on the blank space.
And with the advancements in AI and Chat GPT and all this stuff, and anymore, well, these days I should say, is like, dude, everybody can be their own marketing company.
Just about.
So it's like, think about marketing messages and like, you guys just, like I said, once again, you got to be true to yourself and your business, right? You got to like make sure that the tonality matches what you would write. or is part of who you are, because that consistency I think is very, very important.
Definitely. Newsletter is a good idea. Just in general for your business, if you want to stay in front of past clients and keep that top of mind with them, newsletter is going to be a great way to do it. Right? Get a little crossword in there, get a recipe, get a tip from some kind of other contractor, do a little story on a before and after of a project you recently completed, and then educate them on like some cleaning process, and you probably got 2 pages worth of content. Do that every month, right? It'll take you an hour to make it up with the power of the internet these days. But I think that would be
100.
that would be fabulous. Okay, so that's now we've got okay. I took the phone call, or I missed it, but I followed up. They haven't done anything. Now they're just in my perpetual like I'll reach out to you forever. You can get back a hold of me.
Yeah.
They've answered, and we got them talking to us. So where do we go? Right? Let's go down the other route of what do we need to do to lock this in and make sure that our follow-up is great on that side. Because I think a lot of times we'll have a good conversation, and then it falls apart because we let it slip through the cracks of we don't make it to why contractors schedule appointments and don't show up, or they go to appointments and don't send out the quote. I'll never understand. Why are you wasting your time?
Yeah.
But let's work through that and hit on those things.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think so. The way we look at this is on that phone call, right? You have to qualify your client, right? And that's really what you need to do. Selfishly, you need to qualify to make sure that you're meeting with the right people, right?
Okay.
And we kind of, I believe there's 5 categories that we like to qualify on that you guys will understand this. And then the objective, right? You all know your objective. Your objective is either a in-home consultation, an in-store consultation, or sometimes another phone call, right? Like I'm unavailable right now. The objective is like, hey, can we talk later? Your objective is to schedule that phone call and make sure they show up, so that way you can continue to do your qualification process. It's your process, right? But it needs to feel as if it's a relationship building exercise, because this is the outside, the door, client generator. This is very important, right? Because this starts the sales process. So understanding their needs, what they want, the things that we're paying attention to is just based upon what everybody listening to this is. One is, do you have at least one room of flooring that you needed in your house? That's a lot of people's minimum, right? Not a closet, not a repair.
Mm-hmm.
Do you own your house? But I would urge you, like, don't ask them if they own their house, because it might be insulting. You rephrase it in a form of something like, hey, how long have you owned your home? Oh, actually, it's not my house. I'm renting it. I just want a proposal for the landlord. That saves you time, right? So find a way to ask that question, because I don't know how many people, I know a lot of people that showed up and they don't even own the house. So understanding that, also what kind of flooring, what kind of materials they want. Is it something that that you guys offer? Just good questions. What are they looking for? What's the outcome? It's like, what's the problem? And you just got to be a problem solver for me. So, and then also one thing to be qualify on, are you in the target market? Are you in the place that I travel to do business? Mm-hmm. And those are the primary. And then every client sometimes has, different needs or qualifications, minimums or something like that. And whatever yours are, just make sure you get that. And then when you schedule the appointment, I would say at all possible, don't give them the availability, the homeowner. Say, hey, when would you like to meet? Oh, next 2 weeks. You're kind of screwed, because that high likelihood that appointment's going to get canceled, because they're going to move further away from that phone call and they're going to lose interest, right? Yep. So I say, hey, if you could say, you give them the first 2 options. Are you available tomorrow at 3:00? No, I'm not. Oh, okay, what about Tuesday at whatever time? You're looking at your calendar, right? Yep. That's really important. And then if they don't, like, no, I can't, I can only meet around this time, then that conversation progresses, but you're trying to keep that as close to that phone call as possible. It's a very, very important for that. And whatever CRM that you choose to use, you should be able to schedule this on the phone, in your truck, in your showroom, on that app, right? And that app should set up the reminder sequence for your client. So
Mm-hmm.
those reminders are important. And if you want an example that we've all probably experienced, it's the dentist or the doctor's appointments. Notice that the level that they go to make sure that you show up to the appointment, even dangling a service charge or a penalty fee for not showing up. You're not going to do that unless you're charging, right, for
Yeah.
your measurement install. But you got to go to that level of what your doctor does. You're going to get a reminder 12 hours out. I believe in placing phone calls for reminders the day before. And the reason why is because if you get in to the next day and you're like, hey, Susan, I'm coming to see you at 3 o'clock, super excited. And Susan forgot about you and she's already started the process of her day. And she's like, I can't change my day. Like, this is
Yep.
not going to work. So I always try to get that reminder call out the day before because it's before they've gotten up and get moving. It's already there in their head and they're going to get a text message reminder too. That's why we choose to do it the day before.
No, yeah, I've definitely had to schedule stuff out where I've have estimates booked out a week in advance.
Yeah.
And, I'm so busy doing it and working a job all day. I don't have time to get out. And then people forget and you go and you drive out there and, oh, I totally forgot. I had no idea. So I think that's having a way to be able to follow up with them, let them know, doing the doctor thing, that CRM is super powerful in being able to do that. I love you telling them when you're available. I think that's great just for general and a contractor because it keeps you in the position of authority and not them thinking that they're in charge and dictating the schedule and how things are going to go down. I just had someone actually reach out, not knowing that I'd shut down my business, and they were like, yeah, I want you to come out and give me a quote. And I was like, yeah, no, I'd be happy to discuss this over the phone with you, and then we can take it from there. Well, when are you available to come give me a quote? You're not understand. I'm not coming out. Like, we're gonna talk on the phone first, and they didn't want to play that way, and so I was like, no, you're not a good fit. Like, you don't get to dictate how this works, right? Yeah. I've got my process, and this is how it goes. So I think that's all great stuff. There was something else too, and I can't even remember what it was.
But
So maybe
you're
we'll
right.
get back to it.
If you're a one man band, right? You got to be. And I use this as an analogy to firefighter. I don't know if it's commonly known or not. I'm sure it is, but like you can't. It's really hard to be an efficient and grow your business. Be incredibly efficient and grow your business if you're a firefighter. I mean, if you're being reactive to what everybody else is doing, it's like you're going to be stuck in a cycle where you're not going to be able to get the growth because every next plateau that you have to go through, whether it's 250, 500, 750, 1 million, is like there's a lot of time commitment, right? But if you're not organized in how you're doing it, you can't hand it off, right? And then buy that time back and then continue to grow your business.
Yeah.
Right. And no joke, lead management is a massive amount of time and it takes so much dedication and perfecting the process in order to get the most out of it. So most people, and when I say most, I mean companies from 10 million down are wasting a ton of money on ad spend, right? When they could reduce the ad spend and treat those reduced rate or the reduced flow at a higher, more organized rate, and you're going to convert more deals out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that makes sense.
Buried is the worst thing possible because you're trying to doggy paddle through it, and you're only picking the low hanging fruit. That's it.
Oh, great points. I remember what I wanted to bring up. You mentioned being able to like look at a calendar and give times of when you're available. I just had the experience with the guy that's going to come and paint my house, and he was like, "Oh, when I get back to the office, I'll let you know. I'll take a look at the schedule and let you know what we can do." Man, really? Like, you don't have your schedule like on? We all have calendars built into our phones now. We've got little computers that go everywhere. My life is run by a calendar on my phone, or like, well, at least it's in the digital world, right? It's in the cloud. My life is run by it.
Yeah.
My estimates and consultations were going on there. My projects were going on there. I knew that I was 6 weeks out. I knew that I had a day available. I knew when my kids had stuff going on. My entire life was run by my phone screaming at me with dings. And so I don't know that there's any excuse for you to not be able to tell somebody when you're on oh, I got to look at the schedule and get back to you. What? Like, how do you do like you should have this available. Like, I don't, so when you're talking about being organized and having, like, there's tools available, you got to get on it, because I want that answer. Like, you have me on the phone. Let's get this thing scheduled, right? It does you the favor as the business owner, because you're locking them in. They're committed to you now. And so let's make that happen. Otherwise, you're going to tell them, oh, let me go back to the office and get back to you. You're going to call them back later. They're going to tell you, I've already got 3 guys scheduled.
Yeah.
I don't need you anymore.
And
Forget that.
think about the personality, right? Because we know a lot of people listening to this right now are gonna be like, I'm just not the techie guy. I'm not that guy. Like, this is what I do here. This is not what I do. And like, you don't have to be techie. You don't have to be the guy that you're referring to, right? All you have to do is, like, this is really simple stuff. Is want to change the language just a little bit. Instead of saying I'm not that guy, it's a constant resistance to progress, right? So if you say, hey, I can do one thing, I can work a calendar, and all you have to do, and this is like a 1 or 2 minutes a day. I'm going to be better at managing my calendar. You don't have to be super techie, right? But as long as you accept the fact that, hey, this is not a strength of mine, but I'm willing to take small steps in order of being better at it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be the master. It's not either nothing or everything. It's just like, hey, I'm going to be a little bit better at this, and I'm just going to start by working the calendar and downloading the app on my phone. That's it. That instantly makes you better, right? We all move in the direction that we think. We move in the direction of our self-talk, right?
Yes.
So this is a hurdle right now. I'm sorry to put on this one, but I know there's a lot of people listening to this right now saying, this is not me. I'm not doing operations. You don't have to. All you have to do is take the first step. That's it, right? And then a few days later, next month, take one more step. Progress is not overnight. Progress is achieved over compounding over time.
Yes. No,
right? So,
totally. 1% better a day is 365% better in a year.
100. Yeah.
It's actually, it's more than that, because if 1% compounds on 1%, I'm not going to do the math, but it would actually be more than 365%. But
be the guy that's willing to, like, watch a YouTube video, because that's what it takes. No shit. Sorry. No crap. Watch a YouTube video. My bad. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. They slip out every once in a while, especially when you're getting passionate about stuff. I do it. I mean, I think that's it. Is there's, we can make excuses because we don't. It's been talked about to death on this show. People hate being uncomfortable. I don't want to get uncomfortable. Learning something new is hard. It's challenging. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to experience growth. Well, then don't be a business owner.
Yeah.
Go work for somebody, because you're not going to get where you want to be and have a more comfortable life without first getting uncomfortable. You have to go learn to stay in that uncomfortable zone. And it might start with you putting your big toe outside the circle and dipping it in the water and dangling it around. And then eventually you can put your whole foot over. And then hopefully you bring your second foot over, and you can stand. If you can stand right outside your circle, you're in a perfect place, because you're always just uncomfortable enough. I'm not telling you to go run a mile down the road away from your circle of where you're comfortable and totally throw your life in upheaval and experience a whole new way of being. Take one step outside the circle, learn to exist in that place. And then you're going to get comfortable there, and then your circle's going to grow, and then you're going to say, oh, well, now I'm too comfortable. Let me take another step outside. And it's this constant battle to stay just uncomfortable enough, because it'll challenge you to be different.
Yeah. And I really like it. So it's like, think about, like, we're talking about this, and I wanted to address this because a lot of people are like, the CRM. It's like, listen, it's like, it doesn't have to happen overnight. Like, everything that we're talking about here is it's not a turnkey, right? It's something that, like, I could say a year and a half I've been working on this process that I'm sharing with you in an hour. It wasn't built overnight, right? Like, you can say, hey, I'm just going to pick the CRM of my choice, right? All I'm going to do is I'm going to watch one YouTube video a day. My whole focus is just to maybe just organize my lead flow so it doesn't get lost in my inbox, right? And I'm going to figure out one thing. That's all I'm going to do this week or this month, is figure out how to get the leads from there, the leads to here. That's it.
Yep.
That's where progress is. That's where goals are made by saying, hey, how small is the daily commitment, right? The goal is this. How small is the daily commitment? Well, how do I get started? I have to choose something and download. Okay, maybe find something for free, right? And
Hmm.
it's like, I need to spend 2 minutes a day on this, and that's it. That's where all your dreams come true, not by giving up your entire month.
Yes. No, little progress steps, right? It doesn't take a lot. And to be honest, a lot of these companies, you're going to be able to call them up. They're going to walk you through it, right? Hey, I want to
Yeah.
learn how. One, they're going to, you sign up with anybody, they're giving you a demo these days, right?
Mhm.
And then you're gonna pay them a bunch of money, and they're gonna say, hey, we got an onboarding thing. It's on you if you don't schedule the time to do the onboarding. It's probably an hour, maybe it's an hour every week for the first month or something like that. Do the onboarding, make it a
Yeah.
priority. But after that, you can call them up more than likely and say, how do I do this one step, right? Okay, I just got to get clients' info entered in here and start capturing that. I don't even
Yeah.
need to worry about managing it and having it give me reminders. Just teach me how to enter it.
That's it.
Go at your
That's the,
pace, right? Like it doesn't matter. Tony's right. Like one, working on it slowly but surely and just building on it. You're doing more than the person that's doing nothing and keeping the system the same and losing all of the leads. So
yeah.
this is it.
I mean, and think
Take the
about
steps.
your leads as gold. Like those are nuggets of gold, especially if you whether they're paid or not.
Hmm.
They're coming off a website, coming off a chatbot, coming off from Google paid. Those are gold nuggets. They're going dink, dink, dink. And all you want to do is be able to capture them. If you have a hole in the bottom of your comp, you're just dumping them right back in the river.
Well, if you know what your average project is worth, right? Let's say the average project is 5 grand. If you're getting 10
Mhm.
leads a week, there's $50,000 of potential money on the table. You may only
Yeah,
need to close 40%, but if you
yeah,
can close 60% all of a sudden because you change the way your lead management exists, can you add in a subcontracting crew? And you're
yeah.
making 20-30% off of that crew, and your revenue goes up that way until you have enough that you can afford to pay somebody. Maybe you only close one more, right? But like, what can you do to improve yourself? And so yeah, I think stop looking at it as it's just a phone call. Like, what is that actually worth? And
And
then
sorry, you may interrupt.
well, I was going to say, like, a lot of people don't look at lifetime value of a client either. And
Yeah.
so what is on average, how many referrals are you getting from somebody, right? So does that one lead actually look like it's worth 15 or 20? If your average ticket is 5,000 and then they give you 3 or 4 referrals, then the average client is actually worth $20,000, right?
A
And so
referral
now,
is a comprehensive bonus. That's their bonus structure. That means you did a great job, you provided great value, a great result, and you get a bonus if they're going to bring their friends to you.
mhm.
And I believe that your business should be scaled off of your lead flow, right? And your bonus is based upon how well you serve them. That's the mentality that I look at
Mhm.
when I think about these businesses. And a lot of people are like, you're figuring out, hey, what's the step that I take from my business is referrals and repeat business. Like I know I talk to a lot of people every day that are in that boat. It's like, how do I get to the next step where I can make that my bonus structure, right? Another thing that's really important to talk about if you're at some point today too is like, hey, what can you expect? Right? Because I find that expectations of lead flow are far off of reality too.
Okay, we're kind of, let me ask this. So we're kind of at about normal time. So is this like a quick, like 10-minute thing, or are we going to go like another hour?
I can tell I do whatever you want. I do 2 minutes, I can do 10 minutes, I can do another hour, whatever you want.
Well, okay. So if you want to come back, we can turn this into a two-parter and we can keep this going of like, there's more to this. Otherwise, if this is like kind of like the last little thing we really need to hit on and we can
Oh,
do it in like 10 minutes, then
I,
this is
I
the
have
episode.
an I have another hour of gold nuggets to give.
Okay.
Easily.
All right.
Easily.
So let's do another one. We'll get that scheduled up. And let's tease it. So we're gonna talk about, what was it?
So here's a couple things that I really want to adjust. And I only want to share this because I want this to be valuable to other people.
Okay.
Because I spend a lot of time chatting with people on the phone. And the first thing you have to do is set expectations. Like what I'd like to say is like, I don't even mind getting into different channels and say, hey, what's a high intent? What's a low intent? how different should they be treated, just as an understanding, right? And then like, what do you expect? Like, how many leads should you be converting based upon your project, averages, and
Hmm.
like how many getting in, and when should you increase, and when you should scale your budget? Like, I think all that stuff is super valuable because
Okay.
if someone's expecting their lead flow to be like referral business, or walk-ins, like you're far off. Your expectations are off. It's never going to work. But understanding like, hey, what percentages of your lead flow can be converted into, and understanding that, it might help you understand why this process is so important to scale.
I can't wait to dig in. So you're going to have to tune in, not, in a week and another Wednesday, and you're going to get all of that info from Tony. And we're going to dig into this more so that you can better manage your lead flow and close more leads and be more productive with what's coming to you. And hopefully, if you're not spending any money, you get to the point where then you can start spending some money. And if you are spending money, you can either spend less or you have the systems in place to scale out and be even more productive with what you got going on.
And I
So
think
go ahead.
one thing that we should do for them at the end of that call, the next one, is let's lay out a scenario and say, hey, if you're in this boat, or if you're like, this is what the first 5 things that you should do, and just let's verbally build out a SOP. Say, hey, do
Okay.
these next 5 things to be better at this. So at least everybody can walk away saying, hey, I have like 5 or 6 things to implement in my business to be better at this myself, because I think that would be massively impactful. Because if I was given those tips in the beginning, it would have probably pushed me 6 months and, saved me
For
6 months.
for sure. Love it. All right. Tony, if people want to reach out to you, if they're already like super into you and they're loving what you're throwing down, where can they find you? How do they reach you? What do we got going on?
Reach out to me on Flooring Dealer Sales Accelerator. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're trying to put out daily content to help educate and just give this information out to people, because, like I said, it's about a value add. So
Hmm.
you can reach out to me. I don't know, email. I don't know how all this stuff works, but you can find me at Flooring Dealer Sales Accelerator, or throw a .com on there as a website. You'll find me out there.
Okay. Flooringdealersalesaccelerator.com. What about an email? What email do they use?
Hit me with my personal. It's Anthony, Anthony, Pieroni, Pieroni at gmail.com. It goes right to my personal inbox. And yeah, this is what we do, is we help people with these turnkey processes. So if you're like, I don't want to mess with this stuff, obviously we have a turnkey solution for you. But if you want to, I mean, I just love to chat with people and help them. So it's not about a sale.
Right on. I appreciate it, man. I think we got a lot of insights out there. I'm looking forward to having the discussion and following up on this, and then getting like a basic SOP of some first basic steps to really improve the lead management systems for the listeners here. We got a quick word here from Tice. Listeners, it's nearing that time again. Time to remind you that the International Surface event is returning to Las Vegas January 28th through the 30th of 2025. Mark your calendars now. Whether you're an installer, retailer, distributor, or serve in another capacity within our industry, attending TICE is a solid resource to expand your knowledge and networking base. You can also learn about the newest and industry-leading products coming to market. Stay up to date with the International Surface event on Facebook, or visit intlsurfaceevent.com. Registration is open. Make sure you get booked now. Otherwise, I know you're not going. Mark your calendar, block it out, schedule it. Otherwise, someone's going to call you. You're going to use your lead flow tools, and they're going to say, "Hey, I got a job on the 28th through the 30th. Can you do it in January?" And you're going to say, "Yeah, because I need that job." Whereas if you would have blocked it out and paid for the hotel and the plane ticket already, you'd be like, "Nope, I got to go to this really cool show. I got to go meet people. I got to better myself. I'm going to come back more educated. I can do your project starting on the 2nd of February." And they'll say, "Okay, I can wait a couple days." So let's rock and roll with that. Tony, again, thank you. Listeners, thank you. We will be back next week with more on lead flow management.